You know, at our core, human beings are social animals. We're just biologically wired to look for connection, for community, for a partner. For millions of years, we've developed these super complex rituals, all pointed at one fundamental goal: finding someone. But here's a question. What happens when a person basically dedicates their entire life to short-circuiting those rituals? What happens when someone evolves not for social connection, but for pure, raw physical dominance? Well, that's the paradox we're diving into today.
So let's meet our subject, Merab Dvalishvili. You might know him as The Machine, and right now he's the reigning UFC bantamweight champion. This is a guy who has clawed his way to the top of one of the most brutal sports on the planet through just sheer, relentless, almost inhuman will.
So yeah, he's achieved the absolute peak of professional violence. But now, he's facing his toughest opponent ever. An opponent that he cannot wrestle, cannot cardio, can't break. His objective? Finding a wife.
So why is this so difficult for him? Well, it comes down to this really fascinating concept from high-performance psychology that we can call the champion's specialization trap. The very thing that makes him a champion is, ironically, the biggest roadblock in his search for love.
To really get what Merab's up against, you have to understand this idea. Becoming a world champion in something like the UFC is, well, it's frankly not natural. It means you have to suppress all those normal human desires for comfort, for relaxing, for just hanging out, and instead you pour every single resource you have into one incredibly narrow goal.
And this intense focus, it creates this huge imbalance in a champion's mind. I mean, think about it like you're allocating resources. 95% of his mental energy is locked in on fight IQ, cardio, takedowns. That leaves this tiny, microscopic sliver for everything else, like, small talk and trying to figure out the crazy world of modern dating.
This kind of specialization means you're living in two completely different realities. A normal person's evening, it might be chilling out, watching a movie, swiping on a dating app. Merab's evening, that's a whole different universe. He's not a person. He's a highly efficient energy system built for non-stop pressure, turning every single moment into a way to train.
Look, at the end of the day, his entire operational tempo is just way too fast for a normal dating environment. Think about it. Standard courtship requires things like patience, stillness, sitting at a dinner for a couple of hours without feeling the primal urge to hit a double-leg takedown. It really just boils down to this perfect metaphor. He's a Ferrari engine built for the racetrack, trying to parallel park in a quiet school zone.
Okay, so let's shift gears and get a little more scientific about this problem. We're going to break down what we're calling the Merab variables and basically treat him like a case study in today's dating marketplace.
On the one hand, you have the assets. And from an evolutionary point of view, these are huge. He's a world-class provider, he has proven elite genetics, and he shows this intense loyalty and a legendary work ethic. I mean, these are all incredibly attractive traits. But on the other hand, the hurdles are just as massive. He's got zero free time, he basically lives at the gym, and his energy level can be completely overwhelming for anyone who isn't also a world-class athlete.
And just to really drive home one of those hurdles, take a look at this number. What do you think that represents? Well, that's the approximate number of free, unscheduled minutes Merab has during a typical fight camp. 0. And that's not an exaggeration. That's just the price you pay to be the best in the world.
All right, so we've laid out the paradox pretty clearly. The big question is, how do we solve it? It's time to go from just analyzing the problem to building a real strategy. We need a scientific approach to matchmaking for this elite specimen.
Our proposed solution really breaks down into 3 core strategies. First, he's got to target a shared environment. Second, he needs to ensure energy compatibility. And third, he has to use strategic patience. Let's break those down one by one.
First up, the shared environment hypothesis. Look, Merab has got to stop fishing in the general population pool. It's just not going to work. He's an outlier, so he needs to find an outlier partner. That old opposites attract idea is totally flawed here. He needs someone who gets the grind, who isn't going to be offended when he has to go to bed at 8 p.m. or cut weight through a holiday.
All right, strategy number 2 is what we're calling the cardio compatibility test. This gets right at that massive energy imbalance we talked about. A casual walk for Merab is basically a light jog for most of us. Now, a partner doesn't have to be a pro athlete, but they do need a similar kind of metabolic engine, someone who can handle high-output activity without getting totally burned out just trying to keep up.
And that brings us to our third and final strategy, utilizing strategic patience. You have to understand, the game has completely changed for him. Before he won that belt, his pool of potential partners was pretty limited. But now Now that he's on top of the mountain, his social market value has never been higher. The pool of interested candidates has grown exponentially. And what that means is he doesn't need to rush for the finish. He needs to wait for the right opportunity to come to him.
So, all of this brings us to our conclusion. This whole quest for love, it's not just some side project for Merab. In a lot of ways, this is his ultimate title fight.
But here's the good news. All of the skills that made him a champion inside that cage are directly transferable to this new challenge. Finding a life partner takes that same insane dedication. It requires adaptability, and it definitely requires the resilience to get back up after you get knocked down. He already has all the tools. Because in the end, Merab Dvalishvili has already proven he can conquer the physical world. Now he just needs to apply that same relentless pressure to the world of human connection. And maybe, just maybe, the greatest victory he'll ever achieve won't be that gold belt around his waist, but finding someone to share this incredible journey with. Good luck, champ.